Welcome everyone to this week's Alertus Power Lunch, mastering the three levels of testing: test mode, silent test, and audible test. This is only part one though, so we're only going to go into test mode and silent test today, with next week being audible test. My name is Brooke, and I'm a training specialist here at Alertus. And today I'm joined by Sarah, another training specialist here, who will be leading the conversation. So in this session, as I mentioned, we will fully explore how to utilize Alertus's testing capabilities to ensure your system is functioning properly without disrupting normal operations. So today we'll be focusing on enabling test mode for safe system configuration and conducting silent tests for non-intrusive alert validation. We'll also discuss best practices for regular testing and ensuring system readiness. As always, this is an interactive session, so please feel free to add any questions in the Q&A feature. And also be aware that this training is being recorded or this session is being recorded for training purposes. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Sarah.
So, thank you, Brooke. I will go ahead and share my screen so that we can walk through those testing procedures together. So hopefully you all can see my Alertus console here. And I did want to start by going over how to use test mode for safe system testing. And test mode is a way that you can basically have an event like a panic button press or severe weather event coming from NOAA. You can have it come in and be processed by your system without having your system actually activate an alert. So I'm going to demonstrate how to use test mode for panic button testing. So before I put the system into test mode, I'm just going to show you what a normal panic button press would look like. And this will work with any type of panic button. So if you have hardwired panic buttons, USB panic buttons, Wi-Fi panic buttons, you can use test mode for all of those. But just to keep it simple today, I'm going to demonstrate it with a software panic button using my Alertus desktop software. So if I click that icon in my system tray, I've configured a number of different panic button options. And maybe for this example, I'll just pick this one for a fire in building one. So normally not in test mode, I will select it. I have it set up that I need to confirm, and then I'll click proceed, and that will actually activate an alert in the system. So we can see that the panic button was successful. And here is the alert that was activated
in building one.
that I can acknowledge. And then I do also have some other devices going off that you can hear. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that.
Connected to a fire in building one. Please evacuate immediately.
So now that I've canceled the alert, I'm waiting for the alert beacon. There we go. So now that I've canceled the alert, the devices have stopped going off. I've closed it from my desktop. So that's what normally happens. I press a button, an alert goes out. But let's say I want to press the button to make sure the correct alert would go out, but I'm not actually wanting to activate anything on my system. What I can do is go under this configure system section and open up the custom event triggers page. Since test mode works for anything that uses a custom event trigger, like a panic button, if you have RSS feeds or CAP alerts or weather events coming in, you can put in test mode for all of these. So I'm just going to click to enable test mode here, and then it'll give you a little description of what test mode does. So I'll say OK to confirm. And now my system is in test mode. So these events would still be processed, but without sending any alerts out. So now I'm going to go back to my panic button, and I'm going to press the same one for a fire in building one, and I'm going to confirm, hit proceed. But this time, because it's a software button, I'm going to get a notice that the activation didn't go out. And as you can see, there was no active alert that was generated. The device is next to me and my computer didn't go off. So no alert was sent out because we are in test mode. But the benefit of doing that is now that I've done that, I can go into one of these dashboards, specifically the event dashboard. And I'll still be able to see how that event was processed, since this dashboard will show any incoming panic button presses, weather events, any other events that your system is processing. So for example, here is where I sent the preset alert initially for the fire in building one without being in test mode. And I can see here the preset alert that was activated. I can see the name of it and the alert ID number for what was sent out. So that's what I would normally see. But if I do just refresh it so the most recent one shows up, This is where I just press the button again with my system in test mode. So I'll see here this prefix that test mode was enabled. So I know that nothing went out, but it tells me that it would have activated my preset alert for a fire in building 1, which is the correct one that I want to go out when I do press this fire building 1 button. So again, it's a good way just to check and make sure you have the correct alert set to go out without having to actually send it out. And I do recommend taking your system out of test mode as soon as you are done testing. So now that I'm done testing my panic buttons, I can go back under Configure System, back to that Custom Event Triggers page, and I can disable test mode. So now my system is back to its normal state. So if I did go and press any of my panic buttons again, my system would actually activate the alert. So that is the rundown on test mode. And then I did want to go next into how to set up and configure a silent or hidden test so that you could send an alert out to test your endpoints without having them visually make noise and have a siren go off and let people in the building know that you're testing. So I'm just going to use 3 of the more common Alertus devices. So I'm going to send out a hidden test for my desktops, for my text-to-speech speakers, which I have one here, and then I'll also send out a hidden test for my alert beacons, which I have here as well. So I'm going to start with the desktop. So to set that up, I'm going to go under the Configure System section and open up the desktop page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new desktop profile that's going to be hidden and silent. These desktop profiles are what control the visual and audio settings for the desktop pop-up during an alert. So I have a ton of different ones for different scenarios, but I'm going to add a new one for my hidden test. And I'm just going to name it 529 hidden test, just so that I remember it's the one I'm creating today. And then there are several options for the display modes for the desktops based on what you want it to look like. But if you want the hidden one, which is what I'm looking for, I'm going to select the pop-up display mode option. And then for the template, I'm going to pick this hidden test template. So as you can see in the preview, you can't see anything. It is hidden. If I click to variables, I can see specifically that this is just a 1 pixel by 1 pixel pop-up. So it's going to be so small that it is effectively invisible to anyone actually using the computer. And then back on general here, I can also confirm the audio settings for this desktop profile. By default, it'll be set to no audio. I'm going to leave it like that. You could add audio if you wanted to, but of course, since we're making this to be hidden and silent, I'm going to leave it on no audio. So now I've configured what I want the desktops to look and sound like during the hidden test. So I'm going to click add to add that new desktop profile. And once you do that, you should see a pop-up here asking you if you want to create a new alert service for the profile, which I will do. So I'll click that. And then I'm just going to name it the same thing, 529 hidden test. Maybe I'll name it hidden test desktop. And then I will click OK. And now that I've created that alert service, I can see it if I go to the alert services page here. I see that one at the top. So this is the delivery method that I'm going to use for my hidden test alert. And then I am also going to set up a hidden test alert service for my text-to-speech speakers as well. So I'm going to click to add a new alert service. And for the IP text-to-speech speakers, you are going to use the alert service type that is, I believe, called IP, text-to-speech or text-to-speech IP. So I'm going to select that option, and then I'm going to name it the same thing. Let's do 529 hidden test. I'll just call this one TTS for text-to-speech. And then here is where I can set what I want the speaker settings to be during that hidden or silent test. So I can specify the audio. You do have the option before the alert is played that you can have your speakers play a pre-wave or post-wave audio file, which could be helpful during an emergency if you wanted the speakers to play like a specific beep or chime before the alert message is read. But since I'm keeping this silent, I'm not going to add any pre-wave or post-wave audio. And then I do have to select something for the alert audio. I can't just leave it blank. If I did pick text to speech, then my speakers would read my alert message out loud, which is not what I'm wanting. So I'm going to click where it says no audio to add an audio file instead. And I'm just going to search for this audio file that is called Silent Wave. And this is a default audio file, so you should see this on your system as well. And you can preview it here if you wanted to. But again, you're not going to hear anything. This is basically just having our speaker play 1 second of silence during the alert, so we're not going to hear anything. So I will go ahead and apply that for my alert audio. Let me make sure I don't have text to speech selected. I want to make sure I'm adding in the audio file and applying it. There we go. So I see Silent Wave is selected. And then for the audio play count, really we would just need to have it repeat once. That's how many times it would play that Silent Wave file. And then this audio play count here is how many times it would play the pre-wave audio, play the alert audio with however many repetitions we specified, and then finally play the post-wave audio. Again, you could just have it go once. You could set a higher number if you wanted, like maybe I'll put 10 here. So it would technically play this silent wave file 10 times. But again, because it's silent, you're not going to hear anything. So the play count doesn't matter too much. Just make sure it's something that's not 0. And then this looks good for my alert service here. So I am going to go ahead and add that. And then the last device I want to set up the alert service for is my alert beacons. And I'm actually just going to use the normal alert beacon alert service. I don't have to create a new one because the alert beacons work a little bit different. So I am going to actually customize the alert beacon settings in the next step when I go to create the preset alert for my hidden test. So this looks good. I have all the alert services that I want to use. And I'm just going to go down under Configure System to the Preset Alerts page here. So I can create a preset alert on my system for a hidden or silent test so that I have it saved and ready to run whenever I do want to do a hidden or silent test. So you might notice I did customize the icon styles for my preset alerts just so that I can tell them apart really easily. If that's something that you want to set up, like I, for example, did make my test alerts look different than everything else, you can scroll down to the bottom to add new preset types. This is, again, just different icon styles, and I'm going to use this test one for the alert I'll create today, where I just made the background green and I picked the test icon. So this is an optional step if you want an extra layer of customization. But I am just going to scroll up here and go ahead and click to add a new preset alert. And then I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it 529 Hidden Test. And the description is optional if you want. Maybe I'll add a description to say it's a hidden test of all desktops, alert beacons, and text-to-speech speakers. And then the preset type, again, I'm just going to pick the test option for the icon style. And then the next step is composing the message. So because we're sending a hidden or silent test, the message really isn't going to matter for the desktops or the speakers since you're not going to hear it or see it on those devices. The only place that the message will really be seen is on the alert beacon. During the alert, you will be able to see the message, if you can see it without my background cutting it out, but you will be able to see a message on the screen of the alert beacon, even when we don't have the sound or the LEDs going off. So I'm just going to use a generic system test message here, and I'm going to add this is a hidden test. Of the system, no action is needed. Just in case someone does happen to walk by the alert beacon and see that there's a message there, it'll say this, that we're just testing. And I do generally recommend anytime you are sending a test that you include a message to say this is a test, just in case something happens and someone does see it when you're not expecting them to. You're just sending a message saying that it's a test. But that looks good. And then we can also set the duration for the test here. The minimum duration is 2 minutes, but I recommend a duration of probably about 5 to maybe 10 minutes for a hidden test, just so that you can give things some time to run, just to make sure everything is activating and you could identify any like network latency or any reason that something might be taking longer. And then I will also set a priority value for the alert. In the Alertus system, priority ranges from first being the highest down to fifth being the lowest. So if this alert was for an emergency, I would recommend picking the highest priority. But since this is just a hidden test, I'm going to pick the lowest priority. So if I do happen to send this out at the same time that someone else sends a real emergency alert, the real emergency alert is going to overtake my hidden test, and that's the alert that the devices would display. So now that we've got that set, the next step here is pulling in the delivery methods or the alert services that we created. So I'm going to pick the hidden test for the desktop. I'll pick hidden test for the text-to-speech speaker, and also for the alert beacon, I'm just going to pick the standard alert beacon service. But then I can click the plus sign here to customize the settings. And I'm just going to leave them like this. Since I want it to be hidden, I'm going to set no initial duration, but have for the entire alert, my alert beacons are silent with the visual alert turned off. So there's going to be no noise and no LEDs going off. And if you did have any peripheral devices you wanted to include in the test, like an LED marquee, you could check to activate those as well. But for the LED marquee, for example, or any strobes, those would be visible going off with the message or any lights. So for a hidden test, I'm just going to keep it simple, not testing any of my peripheral devices. I'm just testing the alert beacon itself. And then the final step here is choosing recipients for the alert. I could pick individual units if I wanted to test just a few devices. I could also pick groups. For example, I could create a hidden test for a specific building or multiple buildings if I wanted to. But just for now, because it's hidden, I'm just going to send this to everyone. So this alert would go to all desktops, all text-to-speech speakers, and all alert beacons on my system. So this looks good. All of the settings are the way that I want. So I will go ahead and click add to add that new preset alert onto my system. So now I will see it in the list here. I think it might be at the second page. There we go. And I'm just going to click this star icon for now to add it to my quick access menu. And then I'm going to go to actually activate it from the preset activation page. So now I can come here because I've started. Now I see the hidden test we created showing up in my quick access menu. So I can just select it. And then I can see the text that we formatted populating here. And there is also a preview button that you can select if you did want to preview what the alert would look like or what it would sound like on the text-to-speech devices. So I can preview that I'm sending that 1 second of silence for my speakers, and I can preview that I'm not going to see anything on the desktops. And that just gives me some confirmation that I did select the correct alert with the settings that I want. And then I will go ahead and hit continue. And I can see a confirmation page here where I can confirm the devices that I'm targeting. I can also see the alert beacon settings that I've selected. So this is a spot I can confirm for the alert beacons that they are going to be silent with no LEDs for the whole alert. So this looks good. I will go ahead and click the send button to send it out. So now we can see that there is an active alert in the system, but I'll leave it running. We're not going to be able to see anything popping up on the desktop. If you are sitting right next to your text-to-speech speaker like I am, it does make a tiny little pop when the device receives the activation. So I just heard that little pop, but it's very quiet. And I can also see, just because I don't have it mounted, the text-to-speech speaker does have some LEDs on the back of the board that will flicker during an activation. So I can just see visibly from looking at the device that it received the alert, but I don't hear anything coming from the speaker. And then I can also see my alert beacon here. And it might be hard to tell. Maybe I should have turned off my background for this, but I do see the message on the screen. It does say this is a silent test, no action is needed. But as you can see, there are no LEDs going off and there is no sound coming from the alert beacon as well. So if someone's in the building walking by, they're not really going to notice anything. And I think I'll just let this run for the duration. I had it set to go for 5 minutes. I could also cancel it early if I ever needed to. But the benefit of running those hidden tests is that now we can check a report to confirm that all of our devices activated. So I'm going to open up the report section here and click into the alert history report. And this will give me a log of the 40 most recent alerts sent out by the system. So I can see this top one here is the hidden test that I just sent. I can click on the message to see some additional information. Once I cancel it, it'll fully update here with the status telling me when it was canceled and how long it was active for. And then I can also check the device activations report here, and this will confirm which devices I targeted actually activated. So if I scroll down, I can see here that I did have an alert beacon activate, a desktop activate, and a text-to-speech speaker all activate in less than 10 seconds. And I can scroll down to see that on my system here, I did have another alert beacon, and I did have 3 other text-to-speech speakers just on my system that did not activate. So I'll get my total activation percentage here. And that's what I'm expecting. I know that I today just plugged in that one alert beacon and the one speaker sitting next to me. So I know that these devices are offline because they're not plugged in. But of course, if the activation percentage is not what you were expecting, that would give you a reason to want to go investigate those devices. And then I can scroll down to the bottom here to see each device, if it actually activated and how long that took. And I can also sort by the status or search for a specific device if needed. So I can see, for example, this is my computer that did actually activate in 6 seconds, even though we didn't see anything popping up on the desktop. And I can confirm those 2 devices, the alert beacon and the speaker next to me, did activate. And then, like I mentioned, those other devices that aren't plugged in right now, I can see they did not activate. So that looks great. And then the last thing I did want to mention is that we do recommend setting up a routine testing schedule. We recommend at a minimum that you do some sort of system testing at least quarterly. But for something like a hidden test that's not very intrusive, generally as a best practice, we recommend having something run at least monthly just to give you that peace of mind to confirm that everything is activating the way that you expect. So if you did want to manually send the alert out each month, you could do that from the preset activation page like I just showed you. But if you don't want to have to do that manually all the time, there is also a page under Configure System called Scheduled Alerts down here, where you can schedule preset alerts to go out automatically at whatever fixed interval you have specified. So I could come here to add a scheduled alert. Maybe I'll call it monthly hidden test. And then I could add a description if I wanted to, and I'm able to select the preset alert that I'd like to schedule. So I'll pick the one that we just created today, and then I can pick the start time. I just ran it today, but maybe I want the schedule to start maybe June 1st, and then maybe I'll have it go out, let's say maybe at noon during lunchtime. Let me just set the time there. There we go. And it will be in military time, so like 1300 would be 1 p.m., but I'll leave it at noon. And then you can choose to have it repeat if you'd like. So in this example, if I'm setting up a monthly test, I could have it repeat monthly, and maybe I'll have it on, let's say, the first Monday of every month. And then I can see the next 10 executions this is scheduled to go out for. And then as an option, you could also specify an end time for when those recurring activations would stop going out. So let's say I want to have them scheduled to go out through the rest of this year, but maybe after the test on December 7th, maybe I want it to stop after that. So I could set an end time there to be the day after. And then if I did go to add that scheduled test, I'll be able to see it on this page. Right now, I'm just looking at scheduled alerts for this week, and I don't have anything, but let's say I want to look at the next 6 months. I'm able to see that I have this monthly hidden test scheduled, and then I'm able to scroll down and see the next executions. So now I have a hidden test set to go out on the first Monday of every month through the rest of the year. And if, for example, I'm doing some event on campus or I don't want the hidden test to go out on a particular Monday, I could come here and just disable individual executions of the scheduled test. Or if I wanted to just turn it off altogether, I could turn off all executions by disabling it up here. So you do have a ton of options for system testing, and I believe that was everything that I did want to cover today. So I will pass it over to Brooke to share any questions and then also some additional resources.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah. So yes, we did have a question around scheduled testing. Assuming that this covered it. If you do have any additional questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or in the Q&A feature. We also had a question come in that says, will this be recorded and shared? I missed how you hid the desktop alert from coming up. So yes, it will. We record all of our power lunches and you will get the recording sent to you after. Sarah, can you also share on the customer portal where, well, one, you can reshare how to do the desktop, but I also, if you want to share where all of the recordings live for the customer portal, I think that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. So if you missed it, the way I had the desktop be invisible and silent is I created a desktop profile for the hidden test on the desktop page under this desktop profiles section. So this is the one that I created for the hidden test, and you'll just pick the pop-up option for the display mode. And then from the choose your look list, you should see a pop-up template that's called hidden test. That's a default one that's on your system. So you'll just select that, and that is just the 1 pixel by 1 pixel pop-up that's invisible. So that's the one that I used for my alert. And then if you did want to get recordings of previous Power Lunch webinars, if you visit the customer portal, which is just at help.alertus.com, I'm just going to open that up on another tab here, and I'll log in with my personal email so you can see what the portal will look like for you all. I will mention just on the login page, you will see the upcoming Power Lunch sessions here with a link to register if you click the picture. And I just updated this morning, so this has the June sessions listed. And then if you do log in here to the customer portal, we have a ton of training guides and resources. But if you're looking for old Power Lunch recordings, if you open up the training tab and then go to Power Lunch videos, then you'll see there's a ton of options here in some different categories. I believe the testing one is here in that system maintenance section. So we've run this before, but so we have some recordings from the sessions previously here, along with a ton of others that could be helpful.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so let me just share a few resources. So the first one that I put in the chat is another thing on the customer portal that will take you through the silent test. There's a video and also like step-by-step written out guide. So if you are more someone who likes to see the written steps, then that is for you. In addition, as we've mentioned, this is a part one of part two series. So part two will be next week where we're going to learn more about audible testing. And so I'm putting that in the chat if you would like to register. You also can see that we have run this session before. So if you wanted to go and watch the previous recordings on our customer portal, completely fine as well. There's part two right there. But I'll be running next week's session live if you are interested in coming and getting some questions answered. With that, I believe we are right at time. We'll stay on for about 30 more seconds if there are any additional questions. But if not, thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good weekend.